What's up, boys and girls? Lambo here, and in today's video we're gonna have another Tryhard Thursday game of the day, in which I'm gonna be playing against Kelazhur on the ladder. I played that game earlier today, and I asked my chat which of the games that I played today on stream they would like the most for this format, and pretty much everybody said this one, even though we had a late game comeback against Protoss as well. So this game really was very clean, and I think there's a lot of stuff that you guys can learn from it. Since it was pretty straightforward, our opponent played something very standard, and we're gonna do... we're also just gonna play standard, pretty much. So yeah, we're opening with a 16 hatch. Our first two overlords are sent to scout around. So the first overlord goes a little bit to the right to check for the proxy Reaper, proxy Rex, or also proxy Marine, proxy Rex, and then you want to check behind the mineral line, which they can mine out if they proxy Rex behind that, and then the second overlord covers the bottom side of the map. We're going 16 hatch, 18 gas, 17 pool, which is the normal opener for TVZ. And the second overlord actually on this map is the one that goes to the other side of the map to scout, and not the first one if you take these patterns. So just keep that in mind. We rally all three drones in gas. You don't put an extra one into gas like you do against Zerg, because the speed, having the speed a little bit earlier really only matters in ZVZ or if your opponent double chronos out of depths. So usually against Protoss I only do that if they block my natural. Alright, so we're going for a 21st drone. This is because I want to take my hatchery before the next overlord spawns. So we go double queen, 2 pairs of lings. I already sent my drone to the far left mineral patches because I'm playing against Kelazhur, who probably has the best Reaper micro out of any player that I've played so far, which I played every single top Terran player, so including all the Koreans. I do believe that his Reaper micro, if he's trying, is really on point. So make sure that to rally those drones away from where the Reaper is coming. This is actually one of the games where he messed up a little bit, so I stutter stepped forward here because I don't think he expected me to be this aggressive. So we got a lot of HP damage done on the Reaper, but then we messed up our Zergling control, so we lost 2 anyways. But we still get the queen at the edge of the creep, which is nice. We then usually would go for a 31 queen at the natural and then overlord, but since we lost 2 links, it's now 30 and then 32 overlord. Sometimes I also make a 32 overlord and then queen at the natural right after. Depends a little bit on the map of how early I want the queen, or if I prefer a couple of extra minerals that I get. But those are very small differences. For now we're just trying to make sure we're getting the creep tumors. Now as the overlord spawns, you make an extra queen in the main base. This queen will now from now on be a creep queen, but you keep it between main and natural so you can make a creep tumor to connect the bases with creep, which is fairly important, especially against builds like Hellbit drop Hellion run by or simple Hellion drops. It can be very important. Also Marine drops, really. Yeah, it's just nice to have your bases connected. So now that I see the Reaper goes to the right, I can spread both creep tumors. I split my queens to make sure that one of them zones the aliens, the other one the Reaper. I see that the Reaper is not here anymore. So we now go forward with all the queens. The way I have my overlords positioned, note that 2 of the overlords are checking for where exactly the Hellions are going in this area. Then the third overlord, you can see it fly right now towards like the 5th or 6th base. More realistically, it's 6th or 7th base, or even 7th and 8th. If I decide to take bottom left, depending on how the creep spread goes, but you can see that that covers pretty much both of the top paths, so you can see the Hellion movement perfectly on that map, which really lets you explode with your creep spread onto the map on Romanticide if you take that forward base. So now we're scouting with the Overlord. We see that it is a 2cc Hellion Banshee opener. We also see that he lifted the factory, so it's no super many Hellbat attack. And the way I like to play against this is I have the 5 queens at the front right now, and I have 2 queens in the back, right? So that's 7 queens for now, but I will make an 8th queen, so I can have 2 queens in the main together with an overseer. I also like to play early lair every single game against Banshee. It just simply feels nice to have detection early on because it lets you defend your fort base, plus you creep spread a lot better. Also, Baneling speed can be nice most of the time. Banshee is followed up by tanks. The reason for that is that they have an extra tech lab and usually want to use it. So most of the time, if current players go Hellion Banshee into bio, they do follow up with tanks. Most of the time, even tank pushes in my experience of some sort. So yeah, the early building speed is definitely good. Note that I do not take my gases before I have the drones to saturate them on. Which, what I mean by that is, and I preach it every single time, you can see now I have 19 out of 16 here, and 19 out of 16 here just as the gas finishes, which means I consistently have 16 out of 16 on the mineral line. This is very, very important. Do not take your gases too early, do not tech up too early. You see that I'm delaying my upgrades until I actually do have the gas for it. They could be slightly faster, but it's not that important, the upgrade times. It's more important, like the most important part for you guys is get the 16 drones on each mineral line and then get your gases. And I'm going 6 gas and I want to go Muta. And now we're taking the 4th at the bottom because I know both Banshees are at the top, so we couldn't take this base right now because my queens are busy with dealing with the Hellions. So if the Banshees were towards the bottom side of the map, I would have taken the top 4th first, but I want to expand towards both sides anyways. In case there were no Banshees, I also would have taken the bottom 4th because it's a little bit easier to defend the tank pushes on. The other side has a mad tank position behind the mineral line, on like the 12 o'clock base, which is very annoying. Since we had a very clean early game, we barely lost any drones and any units. We're going up to, I would estimate 76 drones or maybe even 80. Since the early game was quite clean, we also already have Baneling speed. And I just double checked if he had combat shields yet or not, and I keep checking. I keep going down a little bit with the camera, and now I'm pre-splitting while the buildings are still morphing. And now I'm tanking with the queens, and now I'm going in. He realizes that I want to engage before he has combat shields. He only had 1 tank there, and he disengages, which was really smart. The game, I'm pretty sure, would have ended if he stayed there. And since we defended that quite nicely, I'm droning up now, and I'm taking extra geysers for the mutas. Right around now is when I hit my first supply block of the game, which is right when I am supposed to make the mutas, but that's okay. And so at this point, one thing that I didn't do this game, which I think you should usually do, is scout for whether or not it is an 8 Rex. But I think Kelazhur always goes 5 Rex tank push, relatively committed, and then goes for a 4th CC. So I was kind of playing the play there instead of playing legit. If you guys want to be super safe, you should not really go 8 gas. Before confirming that either the Terran has like gases on their 3rd base or has a 4th CC started or does have a 2nd factory, any of these would be huge tells that it's not 8 Rex. But in this case, if you have such a clean early game and you're on a map like Romanticide, where your base setup is quite safe, I think going up to like 86 drones like I did in the 8 gas is reasonable. Also, we are playing it super safe because I didn't want to engage before my 1-1 was done, so I pulled away the drones from that 4th base to the 5th base, which kind of acts as an alternative 4th base really at the start. That's why I'm getting them at the same time. You will see Koreans are getting macro hatcheries, but I think getting a macro hatch instead of a 5th base doesn't really make sense unless you're on a map where either the 5th and the 4th are at the same side, or if it's just so exposed that you would not be able to defend it ever if there was a job there to pressure it. So now we're ready to fight. We're almost maxed out. We definitely outmined him, no matter what, because we played pretty clean this game so far. So now we're pre-splitting, and you A-move behind him. And we move command the Banelings if they get there, but there was no reason to move command anything, because there were no units in front of them that I would have needed to move command past. So we focus fire the Medivacs with the mutas, and at this point we're really far ahead. That was a clean fight. We also started to 2 right away, and now since I know I'm ahead, I keep pressing the issue. Since I still had some Banelings left over, I knew that there's no way that he can be on the map right now, especially since he still was a little bit on creep, and since I'm feeling like I'm quite far ahead at this point, instead of just throwing down an infestation pit, I will actually try to use all my minerals and gas right now into mutas and then try to start being aggressive. Because if you have momentum on your side, usually you will always get like evenish trades on the Tyrant side of the map if with Hellion Bane Muta, if you're relatively fast. So far the game was all about getting a lead, so just getting the maximum amount of drones, macroing cleanly, and taking good fights. And this is, I guess, now is the second part of the game, which is all about like getting a win from the advantage that we have. So now we're counterattacking with a bunch of links combined with the Mutas. We left most of the banelings at home, plus our reinforcements are related at home. And now that I realize, okay, he's probably moving back with his entire army since he didn't start pushing, I should start going forward with the rest of the Hellion Bane towards his third base. I also know, you can see here that his fourth base is not even landed yet, which is huge. So at this point I am starting an infestation pit. I know he's not letting me, but at this point, also when you're max, you should just always start an infestation pit. Even if you plan on finishing the game with 2-2 and Muta Hellion Bane. You should always start an infestation pit, just in case he just sits there and camps, and even then you can still probably just kill him with Muta Hellion Bane and 2-2 if you just wait until he moves out, but it doesn't hurt if you're max because it doesn't hurt your army growth anymore. So now there is a tank here. I'm not sure what he's doing here, but he's a little bit out of position, and now we have easily enough Mutas to start killing turrets. As you can see, I have enough to even one-shot them. So now one move here that is very important that I'm about to do here. Actually, I'm not doing it yet, but I basically try to make sure that none of the Mutas are flying in when my Mutas go to arrest the opponent's main base on pretty much every map. Usually what I do is I press 2, Shift 1, which makes it so all my Mutas are with my main hotkey. And then what I do is I box the Mutas that are about to fly into the opponent's main, and I press Alt 2. What this does is all my Mutas that are not with this group are now on my main army hotkey. So the main army is usually the army that is not behind enemy lines. So I also have a different hotkey for the links I run in my opponent's base. Like these banelings, for example, you can see are on 3, right? But the Mutas, the reinforcing Mutas, are all gonna get a hotkey towards the 1 hotkey. And yeah, that basically makes it so you don't lose Mutas for free that are reinforcing. And yeah, at this point we're just trying to kill him as fast as possible because I know the game's over. If you look at my bank, I can see that he's not even maxed. He also barely has any AoE units. So yeah, we're just... this is not really toying with our food. I'm just trying to not throw a game by just A-moving into him. When he's in position, that's the one way you can lose. And because you have such a mobile army, there is no need to ever do that. You can see I can run in here, and then if I see his army is coming, I can just run back. That's really all there is to it. And now we're again resplitting the army a little bit. Since he's not pressuring us, we have even creep here to rotate a little bit faster. I leave some Hellion Bane here. I see he's still chasing me, so now I go ahead and start killing the planetary here. Where there's no SCVs anyways to begin with, but yeah, here I'm using the banelings to zone out the marines, and then the planetary is dead. Now I'm going in with the run by again at the bottom, and the Mutas never should try to fight the army. They should just run around and try to harass. And now basically he's going for a last-ditch effort, all in, and what you are supposed to do is just morph as many banelings as possible at home. While counter-attacking, I even remake the banelings nest, because usually I make the banelings nest actually my natural, so it dies sometimes, so I remake that usually in the main. I think it would have been even better if I made it the bottom base, but yeah, the game is over. When I rewind here, you can see my opponent's at 130 supply, and we have a bank that alone, if I spend that bank on an army, would be as big as this army pretty much. So yeah, that was a pretty clean game. And it was super standard, so I include the replay if you guys want to check out an early game, how to play against Hellion Banshee. Just look at the replay and look at my movements. It was all pretty normal, pretty straightforward. I didn't even pay too much attention to the queens that were defending, and yeah, that was pretty much how you can also play Hellion Bane Muta, and how you are supposed to play when you're ahead. I know that all of my Tryhard Thursdays so far, I believe, were ZVPs and ZVTs, but that's just because I don't really get any Zergs on the ladder. But once I get one, if it's a good game, which is very rare, because usually one of the two decides to either go all in, or Muta, which kind of forces the other guy to then, again, all in. yeah, if that happens, I'm gonna make sure to to record it and voice over. But until then, I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I'll be back for the next video. Possibly tomorrow, we'll see. Either way, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe and see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.